Hello, this is Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Well, just now they've released some more text messages between Bethany Funk and Bill Mortensen, etc. And we're going to take a look at those right now. Now, it was interesting because Chrome, when you go to the Idaho website, didn't update, but if you use Firefox, you can see all the new files there. I have no idea what the hell's going on with that, but my buddy Zozo said, hey, look, there's some new text messages, and I had already been looking on the Idaho page today and didn't see a damn thing. And then it turns out they're all there if you go and you use Firefox. So what the hell that is, I have no idea. All right. So let's take a look at these new text messages. I'm doing it right now with you guys. The state is seeking a broad scope of cell phone records for two stated purposes. One is to establish a timeline, and the other is for the truth of the statement contained in the record. The span of time the state seeks to encompass is about 10-hour time frame. The state indicates the initial text is the beginning of the time frame at 2:10 a.m. I think that's the one where Dylan is texting the Uber driver, right? And that text is not offered for the truth of the matter. Similarly, at the end of the time frame is a text from the University of Idaho at 1:04 p.m. The state grounds its request in the rules of evidence and a previous decision by Judge. All right, so let's just move down to the text messages. All right, right here we have the first one at 2:10. Dylan Mortensen texts E.G., an Uber driver, inquiring if he was driving. Then at 2:13, the Uber driver texts DM back confirming he was driving. And then at 2:53 a.m., Madison Mogan calls Bethany Funk. And that's sort of interesting because that's right around the time that Kaylee Gonzalez was texting her boyfriend Jack, and then Madison, actually trying to call Jack, and then Madison was trying to call Jack too, so it's right around that exact same time. And then at 3:51, Dylan Mortensen creates a new contact in her phone. Maybe that's the Uber driver, don't know. Then at 4:19:07, Bethany Funk calls Dylan Mortensen. Then at 4:20, Dylan Mortensen calls Xana Kernodle. So this is when she's trying to check up on everybody. Then at 4:20 and 20 seconds, Dylan Mortensen calls Kaylee Gonzalez. Then at 4:20 and 28, Dylan Mortensen calls Bethany Funk for 41 seconds, so they likely talked. Then at 4:21, Bethany Funk calls Xana Kernodle, so she's also going to try. And then at 4:21:50, Dylan Mortensen calls Madison Mogan. Then at 4:22, Bethany Funk calls Madison Mogan. And then at 4:22, Bethany Funk calls EC. So that's Ethan Chapin. You don't see them put those initials in there too often, but that's Ethan Chapin right there. And then 4:22:08, Dylan Mortensen to Bethany Funk texted, no one is answering. And right, they're both calling back and forth and nobody's answering. So if we take a look at this again on my, I think it's a 360-degree video here. This is downstairs. I just want to show you when you enter the house. That room down there is Bethany Funk's room. All right, so this is actually, you could consider Bethany Funk's room, and then up there is Dylan Mortensen's room. Well, actually about right here. So upstairs, right there, and that way up on the third floor is where Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez are. But right there, I think you can actually see her standing right there. That's where Dylan Mortensen is. So Bethany Funk is just below the living room. And if we go up the stairs, this is the top of the stairs. That front door was right down there. Right below here is Bethany Funk's room. And Dylan Mortensen is right through this wall. Xana Kernodle's right there. Kaylee Gonzalez is up on the third floor over there. And Madison Mogan is up there. But Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez are obviously both in the same room right up in that area. In fact, if I switch it over to the wireframe, you can see Dylan Mortensen, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez up there, but Kaylee's room is right there, and Xana Kernodle's bedroom's right over there. That had Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle in it, both deceased. And up here, Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez are deceased. Dylan Mortensen right there witnessed a man with bushy eyebrows, and right down here is where Bethany Funk lived. So back to this. At 4:22:08, Dylan Mortensen to Bethany Funk, no one is answering. And then 4:22:11, Dylan Morton says, I'm really confused right now. Then Dylan Mortensen texted Kaylee, what's going on? No response. Then 4:23, Bethany Funk, outgoing message, Snapchat. Don't know what that says. Then 4:23:15, Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen said, yeah, dude, what the F? Then at 4:23:28, Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen, Xana was wearing all black. Dylan Mortensen, this is the repeated information from the last time. And then 4:23:33, Dylan Mortensen to Bethany Funk, I'm freaking out right now. Then at 4:23:42, Dylan Mortensen said to Bethany Funk, no, it's like a ski mask almost. And then Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen said, STFU. Then at 4:23:51, Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen, actually. Then 4:23:52, Dylan Mortensen said to Bethany Funk, like he had something over his forehead and a little around his mouth. And then at 4:24, Dylan Mortensen said to Bethany Funk, Bethany, I'm not kidding. I'm so freaked out. Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen said, so am I. This is at 4:24:07. So this is about 7 minutes or so, maybe 6 minutes after the person, Brian Koberger, in my opinion, was leaving the residence. Then at 4:24:11, Dylan Mortensen to Bethany Funk, the phone is going to die, F. Then 4:24:14, I think it's probably supposed to say Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen, come to my room, it says BR though. Then at 4:22, Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen said run. And then Bethany Funk, just 5 seconds later, says down here. Then at 4:24:39, Dylan Mortensen calls Ethan Chapin. Then at 4:24:58, Dylan Mortensen to Bethany Funk. That sounds like a text message, but we don't see any words in there. And then Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen at 4:25:16. Not sure why there's nothing there. Was that a phone call or were those text messages? Then at 4:27:11, DM outgoing call. So Dylan Mortensen called somebody. Then at 4:27:30, Dylan Mortensen outgoing message via Snapchat. Then 4:27:40, Dylan Mortensen outgoing message Snapchat again. Then at 4:27:47, Dylan Mortensen calls Kaylee Gonzalez. Then at 4:28:44, Dylan Mortensen calls Anna Kernodle. So, I mean, you can tell, like, Dylan and Bethany are just absolutely freaked out. They're trying to get a hold of somebody, but they don't want to leave their rooms at this time. And then at 4:29, Bethany Funk calls Madison Mogan. See, they're both checking on both of them, trying to figure out what's going on, but don't want to leave their room. Then at 4:30, Bethany Funk calls Madison Mogan. Then 4:30, Bethany Funk calls Kaylee Gonzalez. So she's just rapidly trying to get a hold of these people. 4:31, Bethany Funk calls Kaylee Gonzalez. Then at 4:32:57, Dylan Mortensen texts Kaylee Gonzalez. So again, trying to see where they are. So at this point, Koberger's vehicle's already, left the area and is driving down towards Blaine, Idaho. And then 4:34, Bethany Funk accessed Snapchat. Then at 4:37, Bethany Funk accessed Instagram. Then at 7:30 in the morning, Bethany Funk calls her dad. Then at 8 in the morning, Bethany Funk calls dad again. Then at 8 again, Bethany calls another number. Then at 8:01, Bethany Funk calls home. Then 8:02 a.m., Bethany calls mom. And then 8:09, dad calls Bethany Funk. And then 8:05:43 to 10 a.m. and 45 seconds, Dylan Mortensen is on Instagram. Then at 8:41 to 8:42, Bethany Funk takes photos. Don't know what those photos are of or anything. Maybe she is taking a picture of what it looks like from down the hallway and is not sure what to do. Then at 9:04:36, mom texts Bethany Funk. And then at 10 a.m. and 56 seconds to 10:01 and 40 seconds, Dylan Mortensen messages incoming and outgoing Snapchat. Then at 10:01:53 to 10:03:05, Dylan Mortensen is on Instagram. Then at 10:03:30 to 10:04:02, Dylan Mortensen is on Indeed. That's like the job site, I think. And then 10:04:54 to 10:23:02, Dylan Mortensen messages incoming and outgoing Snapchat. Then 10:23 and 23 seconds, Dylan Mortensen texts Madison Mogan. Then at 10:24:01 to 10:25:04, Dylan Mortensen is on Instagram. Then 10:30:18 to 10:45:43, Dylan Mortensen messages incoming and outgoing Snapchat. And then 11:21 and 53 seconds, let's see, is that maybe Dylan Mortensen texts Bethany Funk? I don't know if the J is, I'm not sure who JM is. Seems like maybe that's supposed to be Dylan Mortensen though. And then at 10:56:49 to 11:29:08, Dylan Mortensen is on Instagram and messages on Snapchat. Then 11:29:27, Dylan Mortensen texts Kaylee Gonzalez. Then 11:29:41 to 11:32:45, Dylan Mortensen is on Instagram and messaging on Snapchat. Then at 11:35:36, Dylan Mortensen is on Yik Yak. Then at 11:36:07, Dylan Mortensen is on TikTok. And then 11:37:36, Dylan Mortensen messages Snapchat. Then 11:39:09 to 11:40:14, Dylan Mortensen and Dad text each other. Then 11:49, Bethany Funk calls JM. So maybe JM is actually an individual, and for some reason I don't know who that is right at the moment. And then at 11:50 to 55, JM texts Dylan Mortensen. So I don't know who JM is. Maybe put in the comments if you know exactly who that is. At 11:44:06 to 11:50:38, Dylan Mortensen is on Instagram. Then at 11:50 and 58 seconds, Dylan Mortensen calls. That's probably when she called 911. And then 11:50:01, JM texts Dylan Mortensen. And then 11:51:07, Bethany Funk texts JM. Then 11:51:33, JM texts Bethany Funk. 11:51:36, JM texts Bethany Funk. 11:51 and 40 seconds, Bethany Funk texts JM. And then 11:51 and 47 seconds, JM texts Bethany Funk. 11:53 and 52 seconds, Bethany Funk texts JM. And 11:53:53, Bethany Funk texts JM. And then 11:53:55, Bethany Funk texts JM. 11:54:57 to 11:55:01, JM texts Bethany Funk 3 texts. At 11:54:39, 11 to 11:57:01, DM is on Instagram. And here's where the 911 call. So that AE up there, I don't know who that is either. All right, so the state has selected text messages and excited utterances and present sense impression. The totality of circumstances defeat the state's request. Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen texted each other a handful of times, and then they were in the same bedroom. They were together with the ability to talk to each other. They were not asleep for 8 hours. The messages, the state seeks admission of an exception to hearsay, began with a call and a message about being confused. After texting each other and unsuccessfully speaking with any of their roommates, the pair were together. The state is looking at the messages with the benefit of hindsight. The analysis has to be done in the moment the utterances were made. Text messages in this case. Dylan Mortensen's first claims confusion, then after communicating with Bethany Funk, claims fear to leave her room. Despite her stated fear of leaving her room, she does so and joins Bethany Funk downstairs. To get to Bethany Funk's bedroom, Dylan Mortensen passes the front door of the residence. Bethany Funk was steps from the front door. Neither of them left the house. Neither of them called friends, family, or law enforcement to help. Instead, both have a substantial amount of activity beginning in earnest less than 4 hours after Dylan Mortensen made her way to Bethany Funk's room. Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen communicate with friends and parents, and Dylan Mortensen is on social media. You know, you get the feeling that Ann Taylor right now is trying to do what all the pro-burger nut jobs say, and she's trying to lay the groundwork that there's a little something more going on with Dylan and Bethany here. You know, because they were actually awake talking, and, you know, there's just something that's not quite right here. And in reality, they're just two absolutely freaked out kids who didn't want the reality of the situation to become true, so huddled up in their rooms. But Dylan Mortensen ran down to Bethany Funk's room because that was an idea that Bethany Funk had, so they could be together instead of alone. But they didn't want to verify what they thought may have happened. The second grouping of message the state claimed fit within the exception to hearsay rule are those from Dylan Mortensen to her roommate beginning at 10:23 a.m. 6 hours later. The state claims Dylan Mortensen woke up and realized her roommate had not responded to her earlier text. The state is wrong. Dylan Mortensen was awake. She was messaging on Snapchat. She was on Instagram, and she texts with her dad, and this is not an exhaustive list of activity on her phone. She was with Bethany Funk, who was also communicating with her parents and then later friends. Yeah, I don't think it's odd that she didn't go outside. Why would she run down the stairs? Why would Dylan Mortensen run down the stairs and go outside where the perpetrator might still be? At least when you go downstairs, you could run into Bethany Funk's room and maybe lock the door, but at least you're with somebody. So she just ran down there, and, you know, she doesn't see Xana Kernodle at that point because she's way down the hall, as we can see. Let me show you again here. I'll go back to the beginning. So this is the front door to the house. These are the steps that come down from the living room, and then that's Bethany Funk's room. So Dylan would have ran down the stairs and took a left and went right into there. If you went out the front door, maybe you would run into this guy right here. I mean, why the hell would you go outside in the middle of the night? That's ridiculous. And, you know, they were up all night, probably just texting and wondering, but now they can communicate with each other. They don't need to text each other what their feelings are about it. They can talk about it, and then they're texting other people, trying to, you know, maybe see if some of them can communicate, maybe waiting for people to wake up. So perhaps they weren't sleeping as long as people said, but I think they were awake the whole night, huddled up together. It'd be hard to fall asleep when you had something traumatic like that happen to you. And I think that these girls were just scared out of their mind, and they were probably trying to get somebody to maybe come over to verify if anything was real that they observed. And it took all the way till, you know, in the later morning for somebody to actually come over, and then that's when they called 911, when they realized that Xana Kernodle wasn't responding to commands. I mean, it is a good point that the girls don't appear to have been sleeping throughout that time frame. So I'll give whoever wrote this, the defense, some credit for that statement, but it doesn't mean anything. I mean, you could tell how urgently they were trying to figure out what was happening to their friends, and then even when they woke up later, they tried texting them again, and it just, they weren't getting any response, and they didn't want to leave the room again to verify their fears. Okay, so I hope you guys found this interesting. I think it adds more context to it. You can definitely see how frantic the girls were at the beginning. We now know that they were actually awake, it looks like, so there's about a 3-hour time frame where they could have fallen asleep. And then, 7:30, Bethany Funk starts making phone calls, and there's pretty consistent communication that they continually try to have to try to figure out what the hell happened. All right, well, again, thank you all very much for watching. If you could leave a comment in the comment section, that would be great. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.